Hello and welcome to Slick Willy Fly. So what are we going to do today? We're going to do this. This is a Flatwing Clouser minnow. Now, I believe that my version of the Flatwing is a little bit different from everybody else's. I think I have a couple of really cool touches. And these are pretty much the last couple of flies I'm going to tie before I get to Florida. So I'm going to tie a couple of these up for the saltwater inshore fishing I'm about to go do for 4 weeks. Lucky me. And let's get in on it. Let's do it. So I'm going to put a size 2 saltwater hook in the vise. And I'm going to use 75 denier olive. But you can use any thread you like. I'm going to do the same color combo. I think this is a pretty cool color combo. And I like the olive front. I like red also a lot, but we'll do olive. So basically I'm just putting a thread base down. And I'm going to go ahead and come back and put my dumbbell eyes. For dumbbell eyes I'm using medium brass dumbbell eyes. And they are yellow and black pupils. So the distance that I want to have, I basically want a good distance. That's about, I'm going to say that's over 1/8 of an inch. I can measure it and put the exact distance that I put on there. But basically I want to leave myself enough room that I could, really tie this off and give myself a good head. You have to leave yourself enough room. Where'd my fly go? You have to leave yourself enough room, excuse me, that you could tie in the last piece of deer hair. You'll see what I mean in a second. So I'm just going to put these dumbbell eyes on. Now, everyone has their own way of doing this. I'm going to guess that I do about 10 of these X wraps. And then I come in and do some figure eights. The figure eights draws it all really tight. And I'm sure you've seen in a lot of my videos that I will usually put a drop of super glue at that point, but I'm going to use UV resin, so there's no need to use any super glue. Alright, so the first material I'm going to put on is a little bit of white bucktail. And I'm going to just get a very, very extremely sparse little clump. One of the mistakes that I see often is I think people put on too much material. So I often tell, like, if I got some young people here or some new fly tyers, less is more often in fly tying. So I mean, that's my clump. It's not a big clump. And I'm going to take out all the shorts, like I always do. Then I'm going to check and make sure that there aren't any extremely longs. That actually looks very good, just like that. So remember, this is the bottom of the hook, because the lead eyes are going to make it swim hook side up. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to put too much material on this side of the hook. I want the fly it'll swim better if the bulk of the material is not on that portion of the hook. So what I actually like to do, I'm going to say about not more than 2 shanks. So there's 1, and really I'm going to say 1.5. That's about 1.5 right there. And I'm going to go ahead and trim this up. Even with my dumbbell eyes. And I'm going to put it more, I'm actually going to put it on my side of the hook here. A couple of loose wraps just to make sure I like where it's sitting. And now I'm going to distribute, but I'm not distributing over the hook, I'm actually distributing under the hook. And believe me, you'll see why I do this in a second. Couple of more loose wraps just to keep it where I want it. And now I crank down on it. And none of this little mess that you're seeing there really matters at all. Now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to distribute around the hook. Just like that. And I like the way that turned out. That turned out actually great. You can actually take a second here and trim this up, but it's really not very necessary, because the next piece that I do that makes my fly different than most everybody else's clouser or flatwing clouser is I take a little piece of SSS hollow braid. This is diamond pearl. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap the body. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this diamond pearl on the side of my hook. Bring my thread up to the dumbbell eyes. Now I'm going to wrap in the exact same direction as my thread. Just touching turns here and just wrapping this all the way up. And I think that this little diamond braid is going to look awesome. All the way to the dumbbell eyes. And once I'm to the dumbbell eyes, I just make sure I capture it there. Beautiful. And once I've captured it, I can then trim it off. Just like that. All right. So what's my next material? My next material, I'm going to put a little bit of thread in the front of the dumbbell eyes, which I never had done. My next material is going to be right here. It is Wing and Flash, and I'm going to use yellow. And this material right here is just awesome. You don't need a lot. You need, I don't know how to explain it, but again, less is more. That's almost too much right there. But you see that clump right there? That's all you need. So I just pull out some of the crazy ones. Now the length is even with the length of the tail. So I'm just gonna make it the same length. You can make it a hair longer. Won't hurt anything to be a hair longer. And once I have that length established, I'm gonna go ahead and trim it, which is gonna make my life a lot easier. I'm going to go ahead and place it on the hook. A couple of loose turns. Now I've already trimmed it, so the length has to be right. So all I do is pull it so that it's just short of the eye, just like that, and I lock it in. Perfect. Beautiful. And now I'm going to get a piece of yellow bucktail. And I would like to get something with a little bit of length to it. Again, you don't need a lot. Just a little bit of bucktail goes a long way. So here's the clump that I got. Super sparse. Again, I'm going to pull out all the shorties. Then I'm going to make sure there's no crazy long, which I don't see any. Again, the overall length is my length. So I can trim this also. Trimming it actually just makes it so much easier, so much more clean. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and just place it exactly like I did the flash, the wing. And I'm just going to give it a couple of wraps just to make sure that I like where it's sitting. If it's a little long, you can pull it into place. Just like that. Still a touch long. You just have to be careful with this stuff. Just do everything nice and gentle. And once you like it, just crank down on it and lock it in. Now when I did the flash and when I did this yellow bucktail, you notice I did not go to the back side of my dumbbell eyes. I'm only in front of the dumbbell eyes. Got a little bit of extra bucktail there that I'm just going to trim up as close as I dare. And in the end, I'll probably use my lighter and my needle. Singe them off before I do the UV resin, like you've seen me do in other videos. Alright, so now we have to do the flat wing. We can actually distribute a little bucktail and a little bit of flash, so it looks a little bit nicer on both sides here. Perfect. You know, another thing we could do is we can go ahead and flip this upside down. Might make it a little bit easier to do the flat wing. Alright, so for the flat wing, I pre-selected, not cut, 2 feathers. They're exactly the same, one from the left and one from the right, from this cape. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to put them, I would like for them to be about as long as the fly itself. So I'm going to pull out, after I've measured there, I'm going to go ahead and pull these fuzzies off. And I'm going to go ahead and put this stem, I could do your side actually first, that might make it easier. I'm going to put this stem right over the dumbbell eye. I'm going to go ahead and give it a couple of loose turns, making sure that I like where it's sitting. And once I like it, I can crank that down. Just like that. And now I'll do the same on my side. There's my feather. You know, what I should have done to make my life easy is once I had the length, I should have measured both of these feathers together. And that's a little trick I have to show on a future fly. But that makes it much easier to get the feathers pretty close to symmetrical. Now, I'm going to tell you another tip. If they don't end up symmetrical, I don't lose any sleep over it. Very rarely is nature completely symmetrical. Alright, so now we just trim these tags. This is such an easy fly to tie, and it's an awesome fly. Snook, tarpon, that works. And now it's a whip finish. And the fly is basically tied. So now the last thing that I'm going to do, a little bit of mess here. That's life with deer hair. Is I'm gonna take a lighter and my needle, and we're gonna singe some of these wild hairs. That doesn't look bad at all. All right. So the last step, a little UV resin. And I'm just using a regular consistency, nothing fancy, nothing special here. I'm gonna put on a very light coating of UV. Letting gravity assist here. Put a little bit between the eyes, or on the dumbbell eye, because it just locks the dumbbell eyes in. Just like that. Like that. Remember, you're not in any rush when you're working with UV. So just work it till you're happy with it. I like to spin my resins. I might put a little more. I'm gonna go ahead and cure this and then just give it a little bit more. And like I've said a bunch of times, I mean, this is cured. This is hard. But I go ahead and I put them in my windowsill and just let them cure really well. Give this just a little bit more. I didn't really build the shape that I was kind of hoping to have. So I have to be a little strategic with my placing here. I'm trying to give it a little bit of a cone shape. And you can always help it. You can always help it with your needle, putting it where you like it. That looks good now. One thing's for sure, this fly is going to be super durable and it's going to get a ton of bites. And I think you could see that little diamond, hollow diamond body, that looks awesome. So, and I don't know if you can see the flash in this fly. I'm going to actually take a comb to it real quick. But it's not a lot of flash, but that flash is going to look awesome. Right here. So there it is. This is the Slick Willy Flatwing Clouser, Super Clouser. And just going to comb this out a little. And I think this sucker looks awesome. This guy is gonna swim just like this. Gonna have a ton of action. You know, the Bucktail has great action in the water. And a great feature about the Bucktail is that it tends to not foul. It's much more difficult for Bucktail to foul. So this fly, you're not gonna have to check it every other cast to make sure it's not fouled. So that's a feature that I really like about Bucktail. So hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And good luck catching. And hopefully soon you'll be seeing some fish pictures. Some good, beautiful snook or tarpon or just some cool Florida fishing. Thanks again. See you on the next video.